I've made easily over $3,000 in the past few years making and selling this project, and it's super simple. It only takes like an hour or so to make each one, but today I decided to make that project and add a little something special to it just for me. Lights. So a few days ago I saw the mailman go by and drop a package in the mailbox, and I knew what it was. It was my new lights from Lumary. I've been anxious to redo this back wall behind me, and I figured these lights would be a great addition to help light it all up. I could change the color temperature or dim them, whatever I need to do to make this shot look good. Now, I'm no electrician, so I was a little worried about that whole process, but the good news is you really don't need to be an electrician with these. But we'll get back to that. Let's get into the build. I opened up the box from Lumary. There was 4 lights, 4 boxes for wiring up the lights, and a remote control. It also came with this circle template for laying out where you're going to put your lights. After figuring out what I had to work with, I'm sad to say it was time to tear down this whole back wall that I built a couple years ago. If you've been watching this channel, you saw me make this whole entire workshop into like a spot where I could hang out with my friends. And I had this back wall looking exactly how I wanted it, but it just didn't work out for me because honestly it's too hard to hang out with your friends in a workshop. So it was time to make some changes. Got it. So once I had everything tore down, my daughter wanted to write our names on the wall because I'm going to be covering it up with this 70s wood paneling that a buddy of mine gave me. If you know me, you know I love that 70s, 80s look, especially like the whole TV room look. So I thought this would give that kind of vibe for the background here. I brought them all in, lined them all up, and I could nail them to the wall just using some little panel nails that I picked up. Once I had them all nailed to the wall, I had to figure out where you were going to be able to see behind me when I'm sitting here doing a voiceover like this. So I measured everything out, and then it was time to start making my shelf. That's right, we're making a floating shelf. And let me tell you, I have sold so many of these. They're super easy to make, super easy to install, and people love them. So keep that in mind, even if you're not going to install lights into yours. This is a project that you could easily make and sell. Once I measured out for all of my lights and used that template they provided to draw out the circles, I moved my miter saw out into the driveway because my shop is a total disaster. Once I took everything off of this wall, I had really nowhere to put it, so it's kind of all over the place in here. You'll see it throughout the video. But I brought the miter saw out and I cut my plywood to length, and then I used some 1x4s, as you can see right there. I cut some 45s on the corners to help hide all the plies. And then it was time to cut out where my lights were going to go. I drilled a hole into the center, and then I just used my jigsaw to cut right on the line. You want to be as close to the line as you can be, but if you're a little off, it's not a huge deal because the lights provide you with a little bit of a lip, which is going to hide any imperfections you have. And there we go. We got 3 holes cut exactly where I need them. Once that was done, I could put some glue onto my 1x4 and just brad nail it to the front of the shelf. After that, I just nailed some boards to the sides of the shelf, leaving the back of the shelf wide open. Here I'm just cutting up some scrap wood I had on my miter saw. We're going to be using this to hang the shelf off of the wall. Brought it over to my picnic table and just screwed it together like so. Simple butt joint. I didn't even use glue. It's not really necessary. Then I could come into my workshop and use my level to get a nice straight line. Once I had my line drawn on the wall, I screwed those boards right to the wall like so. And as you can see, this is how the shelf hangs on the wall. Super simple, but I think the fact that you can't see the hardware is why I've been able to sell so many of these. They just have a really nice, clean look to them. Once I knew it was going to fit right, I took it back off the wall and I could bring it outside, give it a coat of stain and seal it. And then I brought it back in and hung it back up. I'm not going to get super into the details of how to wire this because I'm not an electrician, but each one of these boxes comes with 3 wires in it. A hot wire, a neutral, and a ground. Your black wire, which is the hot wire, the white wire, which is your neutral, and your green wire, which is your ground wire. You're going to want to pick up a couple bags of these 3/8 clamp connectors to screw into the sides of these so that when you run your wire into the box, you can tighten it down and it won't pull out of the box. And I put the clamp connectors on, as you can see, and then I brought the boxes into the workshop and ran my wire. Power comes in, down to the first light, through the box to the second light, through the box to the third light, and then it'll end right there. So I'm using 14-2 wire for this, which means it's 14 gauge wire with your hot wire, your neutral wire, and your ground wire, just like the boxes have. So all I had to do was connect the white wires to the white wires, the black wires to the black wires, and the green wire to my ground wire. Pretty self-explanatory, but do it at your own risk because, like I said, I'm not an electrician and I don't want to be responsible for burning your house down. Now, if you're not an electrician and you already have lights installed, Lumary makes a retrofit light that screws directly into the socket of your pre-existing recessed light fixtures. Because I was installing something new, I wasn't able to use that, but it's a great option for somebody who doesn't want to do the electric but wants to have these lights that are dimmable, color changing, and you can change the color temperature of. Not to mention, you can put on music and have these lights dance to the music. It's pretty fun. I wired all 3 of these boxes and then it was time to just attach the lights. This is super simple. There's a plug coming out of the box and a plug coming out of the light. You just connect the 2 of them and just tighten down that little plastic nut to hold them both together. They clip right in with a little spring-loaded thing on the side of each one of the lights, and there we go. Put the other 2 on and we'll be good to go. Once I had my shelf built and all of the wiring done and everything turned on, the lights were flashing, so I had to go download the Lumary app and hook it up to my Wi-Fi. Super simple and self-explanatory, but it came with directions just in case. Once that was done, I was able to control all of these lights right here with the app. But if you didn't want to have to use your phone to control these, you could set up your remote, which is also very easy. Or you could just turn them on and off with a light switch, which is what I'll probably do most of the time. I do really love that I can change the background to any color I want depending on what mood I'm in, or if I'm doing like a Halloween video, I can make it extra spooky. Anyway, if you want to see the next steps in this build, come back next week because I'm going to be finishing up the wall with a couple more things. And if you want to get yourself a set of Lumary lights, there's a link down below. Go check them out. They got all sorts of different options and they're pretty cool. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Love you, bye.
Bye, see you again, and have a good dream.